No one noticed the single dad at first, and that was exactly how he had learned to survive. He stood near the glass wall of the towering corporate headquarters, his shoulders slightly hunched, one hand gripping a worn backpack, the other gently holding his young daughter's fingers. The building was alive with motion, polished executives in tailored suits, heels clicking sharply against marble floors, voices buzzing with deals worth millions. Yet this man, with tired eyes and calloused hands, blended into the background like a shadow no one wanted to see. His daughter, barely 7, looked up at the glittering lights with a mix of wonder and fear, her small fingers tightening around his as if the world might swallow them whole. The security guards were distracted, laughing quietly at something on a phone, and the receptionist was too busy fielding calls to look up. That was when the CEO stepped out of the private elevator. He was known throughout the industry as cold, ruthless, untouchable, a man who crushed competitors without blinking. But today, something made him stop. His eyes locked onto the single dad, and for a brief moment, the noise of the building faded away. The CEO recognized the subtle panic in the man's posture, the way his body was angled protectively toward his child, the barely noticeable tremor in his hands. Then it happened. The single dad lifted his free hand and made a small, almost invisible movement, 2 fingers brushing the palm, a quick gesture that most people would miss entirely. But the CEO didn't. His heart skipped a beat. He knew that sign. Years ago, long before boardrooms and billion-dollar mergers, he had learned sign language for a reason he had buried deep. Calmly, without drawing attention, the CEO adjusted his cufflinks and responded with his own hands, slow and deliberate. "Are you in danger?" The single dad's eyes widened in shock, relief crashing into fear as he nodded almost imperceptibly. His hands moved again, shaking now. "Help me, he has a weapon." The words hit the CEO like a punch to the chest. He scanned the lobby subtly, his expression never changing, his face still the mask of authority everyone knew. He followed the direction of the single dad's eyes and saw him, a man leaning casually, near the coffee station, jacket unzipped, gaze locked too intently on the father and child. The CEO's mind raced, but his movements remained controlled. He continued the silent conversation, asking questions with his hands, learning in seconds what could take minutes out loud. The man with the weapon had followed the single dad inside, threatening him earlier outside the building, demanding money he didn't have. The father had run inside, hoping for safety, praying someone would understand before it was too late. Around them, life continued as normal. Assistants rushed by, investors chatted, laughter echoed. No one realized a nightmare was unfolding in plain sight. The CEO felt a strange tightening in his chest, memories flooding back of a childhood where silence had once been his only voice. He nodded once, firmly, telling the single dad to stay calm, to keep his daughter close, to trust him. Without alerting anyone, the CEO began to move, issuing instructions to his security team through subtle gestures and coded phrases that sounded like routine business talk. The tension grew unbearable, every second stretching like an eternity. The man with the weapon shifted his stance, suspicion flickering across his face as he noticed the CEO's attention lingering too long. The single dad swallowed hard, sweat forming on his brow, his daughter sensing something was wrong and pressing her face into his side. The CEO stopped a few feet away, his presence commanding, his voice calm as he spoke aloud about schedules and meetings, while his hands, hidden by his body, continued to speak the truth. "Help is coming. Do not move." The atmosphere in the lobby shifted so subtly that most people never noticed. But the single dad felt it immediately. The CEO's calm confidence flowed through him like a lifeline, anchoring him in the storm threatening to tear his world apart. Security personnel, now alerted without realizing the true danger, repositioned themselves under the guise of routine protocol checks. The man with the weapon sensed something was off. His jaw tightened and his hand twitched near his jacket. The CEO caught the movement instantly. He continued to speak casually to a group of executives, his tone relaxed, almost bored, while his eyes never left the threat. With a barely perceptible nod, he signaled his head of security, who understood that this was no ordinary situation. The single dad's hands trembled as he signed again, fear pouring out in every movement. "Please, my daughter." The CEO met his gaze, his own eyes softening for the first time in years. He signed back slowly, deliberately. "I see her. I will protect her." Those words, though silent, carried more power than any shouted command. The man with the weapon made his move, stepping forward abruptly, but before panic could erupt, the CEO raised his voice slightly, calling out a greeting as if welcoming an old friend. The distraction was enough. Security closed in with practiced precision, and in a matter of seconds, the threat was neutralized. The weapon secured, the man restrained. Gasps rippled through the lobby as reality finally caught up with the moment. People froze, stunned, trying to understand how danger had slipped past them unnoticed. The single dad collapsed to his knees, clutching his daughter, tears streaming down his face as the weight of terror finally released its grip. The CEO walked over slowly, kneeling in front of them despite the shocked murmurs around him. He placed a steady hand on the father's shoulder and signed one last time. "You are safe now." The father looked up, eyes red, hands shaking as he signed back a thank you that words could never fully express. Later, as police statements were taken and the building buzzed with questions, the story spread like wildfire. Employees whispered in awe about how the CEO had communicated silently, how he had seen what no one else had seen. Reporters gathered outside, hungry for details, but the CEO declined interviews. Instead, he invited the single dad and his daughter into his office. There, away from the chaos, he listened, truly listened, to the man's story of loss, struggle, and resilience. Moved beyond measure, the CEO did something no one expected. He offered the father a job, education support, and resources to rebuild his life. Not as charity, but as respect. News eventually broke, and the world was stunned, not just by the dramatic rescue, but by the humanity behind it. The CEO's image transformed overnight, no longer just a symbol of power, but of compassion and awareness. The single dad's life changed forever, not because of luck, but because someone had learned to understand a language most people ignored. Days later, the lobby had returned to its polished calm, but the impact of that silent moment refused to fade. The single dad now walked through the same doors with confidence, his daughter smiling freely, no longer clutching his hand in fear. Training manuals lay open on his desk, a new uniform folded neatly beside them, and hope, real hope, filled the space where panic once lived. Across the building, employees had begun learning basic sign language, inspired by what they witnessed, understanding now that awareness could save lives. The CEO watched quietly from his office, knowing that true leadership wasn't loud, it listened. That single conversation without words had rewritten destinies, proving that kindness, when paired with action, becomes unstoppable. If this story moved you even a little, stay connected. Subscribe to the channel, because powerful stories like this don't just entertain, they remind us who we can be.